On my way back from block leave to go to airborne school, I got into a plane crash. The landing gear broke on the left side and the plane just came all the way in. The wing had caught on fire. And then the cabin started filling with smoke and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening.
You can do this job and be healthy in it.
People can actually grow as a result of their struggle.
This podcast shares real stories of transformation and explores what it means to live well through life's challenges.
Welcome to the Struggle Well podcast. I'm your host, Britt Myers, and today I'm sitting beside Jesse McQueen, who is an Army veteran, a Warrior Path grad, a dad, amongst many other things. And I'm so thankful to have you sitting here at this table with me today, and just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you. It's really an honor. Every time I come back to this place, it's good and bad memories, but it's also incredible. Just feels good to know that it's still doing and still rolling, and it's an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, you should come back more often because you're not too far away. You're pretty local to this part of Virginia. We were just talking about that off camera, but are you from here originally?
I'm from the area, and people from the DMV. That's a wide area. I've learned, and for me, it was Mason-Dixon line, Maryland, or Frederick, Maryland area. Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, and that's where majority of my family is. I have a huge family, 5 brothers, 2 sisters. We're all kind of within an hour and a half of each other with kids all within the same kind of age range. So it's a big party still when we come together, and it's a good place to kind of be here. And that's kind of why I made it back to this area after I left the military.
Do you still remember all of their names? I feel like people from large families, sometimes they forget one.
I can remember my siblings, thank God. All the kids, yes, but I just need a little bit of time. Like, they have 5. Which 5 are they?
Yeah. There was a certain guest we had on a previous episode, not to be named, that forgot their daughter's birthday. And so, as long as you're not doing that publicly, you're in a good spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got
That's
it.
the barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're from this area-ish, and your family all lives nearby here, which has to be a blessing. You have 2 kids, so it's probably nice to have people around, but maybe a nice distance. You can get some separation if you need it.
I think so. I think that's wasn't the intent, but also it works out really well. Far enough, and it's, not close enough at times. But just far enough away. It's also, but yeah, having 2 kids all within the close proximity, they all get along with their cousins. And at this day and age, like technology, they are in a group chat and they like FaceTime each other. They do that like every day, like with it's the cousin group. I can't remember what they call themselves, but
they have a name.
Yeah, it's really special, and it's kind of awesome that they do. And it's really cool because although they see them often, they get to see each other like every day.
Oh, that's so special.
Share experiences with each other. They have their own unique humor, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, are you the only one that served? Do you come from a line of service?
Yeah. Both my grandfathers, from World War II to Korea to Vietnam. My uncle, he was a Vietnam veteran and a couple other conflicts, and cousins that served in the Army, Air Force, Navy. My brother was in the Marine Corps. So the service was really part of it. My dad was a cop for a couple of years, so that it was kind of just not expected, but it was like, that's always was a real option growing up, that, we can, military was definitely something I wanted to do. I knew at an early age that would be something I would pursue.
Yeah, and we had talked earlier, we featured your story on the Boulder Crest website, which was really a privilege for me to write. And one of the things you had said kind of probably coming out of high school, you're 17, 18-year-old kid, still trying to figure out what's in store for you in this life. And you had said that you were capable but needed direction. And do you feel like that was kind of the impetus for you going into the Army, or who was maybe that person that tipped that for you?
I definitely knew I needed a direction, and I didn't quite understand what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I, grew up early 80s, 90s, so it was very different from the way I raise my kids now. But so, lack of boundaries, parents did the best they could, but it was a lot of us all at once.
Yeah.
So, direction wasn't there. I had lost my dad at an early age when I was 14. So that kind of strong direction I didn't have that. So, a lot of family, I had a lot of support, but my uncle really saw it like, you need to go in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and not just the military, like go and, you don't really know what you want to do. There's no better place than to be in the Army Infantry or the Rangers to do
Mm-hmm.
that and just really find yourself there. And looking back, that was a really huge example. Plus my brother, not to any less, like, he's 3 years older than me, and he left for the Marine Corps, and I saw what it did for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was kind of away at the time, but we kept in touch. And when he'd come back on leave, and I knew that, like, okay, I want to go in, but not the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart man. No offense. We
Yeah,
love
no
all our
offense.
branches,
Yeah.
but yeah, obviously Army was the right call.
Yeah.
And you had your eye on potentially going the Ranger path.
I did. I got it in my contract. I was like, got a big signing bonus and all that. And started the process, got in. It was pretty much right after high school. And I got in, and, well, that was kind of start of it.
Yeah, the timing,
The
right?
timing was
Doing that
unique,
timeline.
I
Mhm.
think. As far as like getting direction, I got it in a big way. And I think everybody did. Well, I joined right before 9/11.
Mhm.
And I was actually getting issued my battle dress uniforms during the attacks when they occurred. So
So you were at basic training
I was,
during 9/11.
yeah. Yeah, that was like a big, moment as far as for everybody. But in particular, like, the real factor, that, oh boy, did I do it this time? Is like kind of at perspective as far as like, okay, this is really real. Like, not just going for an adventure, like everything kind of changed at that point.
Well, yeah, because you joined during peacetime,
Right.
technically, right?
Yeah.
So
A little bit of time before, but
yeah.
yeah, it was, and I just remember those days, that time, the world stopped. We had thought it was, a drill or a scenario or something. We had no idea. We were standing in line. We couldn't say anything.
Like for food?
No, we were getting issued our
Oh,
uniforms.
the BDUs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
we're
thought you were
standing
holding
there
your
and
food
like,
tray. I'm
yeah,
like,
we had
oh.
just, a couple days in, and they had at that, it's like a big warehouse type thing.
Mhm.
So there's civilians there, and a couple of the ladies were crying, and that's when it was like, what is going on?
Do you remember like what that was like for you guys? Like, I just can't imagine being at basic training and there's so much process that's happening at that point of things that have to be done and like kind of this decorum or order, but then this other thing happening that's so chaotic and had to have
Right.
just felt like very counter.
Yeah, it did. And looking at our instructors' faces, that's when we kind of knew, like, this is real.
Mhm.
And everybody didn't really quite know what to do. It seemed like we stood around for a while, normal, like, that's which is normal, but still at that time, nobody did know what to do.
Mhm.
And I think watching our instructors meet up and kind of grasp the situation, and then bring us into, outside, and having us all kind of come together,
Mhm.
and just telling us, like, this is what's going on,
Mhm.
and this is real.
Wow, that is a very unique experience. Well, unique to you and those who were
Yeah.
there, like, at that point, but
Yeah. And it, looking back on it, Like, I think, and they did, their intention was, they were drill instructors doing their jobs, but they told us, like, this is, the intention changes, like, as far as, we could be all going, after this.
Yeah.
So everything we do, right, everything we do is really, really let's figure this out. Like, really let's all understand what we're doing, whether, weapon systems to tactics to everything we do, we learn as the basics there, getting that strong foundation and taking it really seriously.
Yeah. I don't fully know how this process works because no one in my family ever tried to go the Ranger route. But so you go through basic training, 9/11 happens, you probably did AIT after?
It's for the infantry, it's all one. It's
Okay.
most, I think, one station unit training. I think that's what my acronyms.
Somebody will know.
Yeah, and that at that time, and maybe it's the same or it's changed. It's over 20 years ago. You go through your initial infantry training, and then usually, depending on what time of year, you get like a block leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would come back for airborne school. And then once you complete airborne school, obviously you're getting tested and, you're still opting in, given that, it's still a volunteer situation from airborne school, is still a volunteer. Ranger indoctrination is still volunteer. But in my particular, I should say that after completion of infantry school, I got block leave. And on my way back from block leave to go to airborne school, I got into a plane crash on my way to learn how to jump out of planes. So
a military plane crash?
No, ironically, into the Atlanta airport.
What?
Yeah, on landing, we crash landed, and I think it was the left side because it was like a smaller plane, just 2 rows.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, I'm 19 after infantry school, so I'm like thinking I'm high on life, like thinking I'm awesome.
Yeah.
The landing gear broke on the left side, and the plane just came all the way in. The wing had caught on fire, and I was right by the wing. And then the cabin started filling with smoke, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening. And then the stewardesses, the flight attendants did exactly what they're trained to do, and they got us out on the the emergency doors, just like you would see that they all brief us on. So please pay attention.
Yeah, you're like, you might
need that. And we actually got out. I think a couple people did get hurt, nothing serious.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I had to. Cell phones weren't really around, but I remember we all had to run through a field, and the fire crews were doing that. And I remember we had to stand around because they didn't quite know what to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
And because we all had to be interviewed and like our baggage, all that figured out. So I can't remember. I asked one of the investigators or the flight attendants. I was like, look, I think it was like 10 o'clock and I was still in Atlanta. I had to go to Fort Benning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to make it.
You're like, I have orders.
Yeah, I have orders. Like, I am going to be AWOL. And like, I had no idea what that meant. And then like, I didn't even know who really to call other than I had like a card in my wallet. And so I told one of the investigators, I was like, hey, I'm military and I'm going to be reported AWOL if I don't call or check in within like an hour. So the guy let me call, and I was like, could you stand by just to kind of give me a little bit of credit? Like they're not going to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause I called and it was the staff duty desk, and some, random NCO was like, answered, and I told him, I was like, I know you're not going to believe this, but I'm watching my plane burn. I'm in Atlanta airport. I'm not going to make my sign-in time.
Yeah, and they're like, Frank, we have another one. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I could do to get you to believe me, but I have the investigator here. He can tell you. And he, he took it in. I think I had to talk to some other people, and I got like a memo. And anyway, I didn't get back until like a day or two later because it just took time to get the audit process in. And
whoa.
Yeah, I got like a free round trip ticket and
a
bunch of drink cards, like free alcohol. I was 19, but they
you're like, what?
Yeah.
You should have sued. I mean, that's probably terrible advice, but I feel like that's an instance where
they sent a couple of law firms sent me letters to join the lawsuit, but I was like, I had already completed airborne school, and I was like, does that really, like, how can I go in saying like, oh, I was impacted?
Yeah. Wait, I'm only thinking because I was like, what year? So when I was in college, I worked at a country club just as a host. And so everyone that was members there were making a lot more money. I'm a college student, making nothing. And one of the members had made his millions in a commercial airline crash. And I was like, wonder if it was the same. Well, you shouldn't think about that. Yeah. And he didn't get any drink tickets, just those millions of dollars. But yeah.
Either way, I still got the story.
Yes, good
but
story.
Yeah, I kept the letters. I had to, just kind of prove it, like remind myself, like that did really happen.
Wow. And luckily, like nobody was seriously injured. I mean, that could have been a way different.
Yeah, and definitely. It was minor injuries of people that were, it was more getting off the aircraft, I think. That's what people got hurt on, if I remember correctly. But
then you're back getting yelled at by a drill sergeant?
Yeah, so then I get into the airborne school. I complete that, and then after you complete your airborne training, and then the ranger instructors they show up.
Yeah,
a new reality starts. So I did that, and we marched over, and we started that whole process. And that was one of those times where you're tested in every way. It's again all by design. And you're, getting through things that you never thought you could. And, all of that goal, everybody had that common goal. And, it was just one of those incredible testing processes. I didn't get through. I did, but I didn't. It was a weird time. After 9/11, everybody had gone in to try to go through to get into regiment, and being 11 Bravo, they were really capped out on it. So we were welcome to come back and try again.
Got it.
So that was a big thing. But they did get us orders to go to Fort Bragg and continue on airborne.
Okay.
So units there. So that was the kind of like a big letdown. One of those things where that was my goal.
Yeah.
And, stuff happened that was outside of my, just life has a way of doing that. And that was my first real thing where I I can't let this get me down. My goals change, but, doesn't mean that the adventure and the challenges don't stop. I just won't go that route. So
just shifting.
And that's how I got to Fort Bragg. And I got into the unit there and continued to kind of develop as a young soldier, a young infantryman. And I got to experience a lot of different things there as far as not just training. We weren't directly into a deployment cycle. So we had a lot of, I think I didn't deploy until 2005. So we had a couple of years of that, but really experiencing different leadership styles. That's the best way I can describe, other than developing as a young soldier and, fine tuning your skills and stuff, and just finding that, getting direction and purpose and all the things of being a young grunt in the units. But also the difference of what quality of leadership is and then bad leadership. That was what my distinct learning prior to that. And then not only that, being recognized, and then people seeing something that I didn't know, and then being developed, and that learning that that's really a big thing about the military is that everybody is, essentially taught to be a leader, a young leader, whether it's you're at the bottom, you're always training the 2 levels up and learning that. And then truly is seeing with the thing of lead by example.
Yeah.
And then being a do, those types of things. Is, strong, simple, sounds simple, but it really resonates. And it's, when you're doing it, it's like, okay, that is important. Leading by example, well, what is that? That person emulates it. That person does not, and then
exactly.
what do I want to be? And then just trying to develop yourself. And that was like, being put into leadership roles and all the uncomfortable things that come with it. And then learning like, okay, this is that is the process.
Yep. Yeah. I know. I was thinking back to what we said at the beginning, that capable but needed direction. And it sounds like that's what you were getting during that time period, that you already had some of these skills and these abilities in you. And it was just figuring out like, what do I not want to emulate and what do I? And I'm sure there's plenty of really good people leaders in the Army or military. And I'm sure there's plenty that you're like, I don't know if I would repeat this exact style, but
exactly.
you
I
learn
know
something
what not to
through
do.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know I don't want to be that. Like, it was towards the end of my initial contract. So I actually had to get extended to go.
Okay.
But not that I didn't want to. It was just because they had to, it was involuntary extension. I think that's what they called it. Without re-enlisting, you just basically get locked in. Like people couldn't retire, they couldn't leave. And then you're in that deployment cycle and the train up begins. And
yeah. And that's 2005.
Yeah, 2005-ish.
And you went to Iraq.
I did.
Okay.
My first deployment, I went to Baghdad, 05 to 06. And I was still like an assistant team leader at the time prior to going, infantry quick reactionary force. But yeah, another significant thing at that time, I should say, is prior to deploying, like maybe a couple months, I had met what turned out to be my future wife, Kelly. We met at a party at the barracks. Friend of mine, said he saw a girl, which is uncommon in the area, and she was part of our unit, but or she was a paralegal at the time. So, and everybody understood she has a fiance or a boyfriend or whatever, but she's really cool. So we hung out, we got to meet, hit it off as friends. Let me back up a little bit. Important thing. Before I was going to deployment, I was going to go to Ranger School.
Right.
So
Because you had a chance to go.
I had to go, plans to go, that is not what Ranger Regiment is, it's just Ranger School. So I was going to be Ranger qualified. I completed pre-Ranger, had my orders, my date. And it was like a week or two prior, my platoon sergeant was like, "Hey, there's a night jump. You don't have to go because you're getting ready to go, but if you want to, it's an option." I was like, I think it'd be smart. I want to be fresh on everything. It's combat jump. Let me do it. I'll do it. Like help me stay fresh. And so I did, and I broke my tailbone. Yeah, it was a bad jump. It was no air, no wind, which was not always good. Jumped on my canteen cup and that was not something that, one of those things where you quickly realize like, okay, I can get past this. And then, the night goes on and we're clearing we're clearing objectives. And I'm like, I'm messed up. And then, my platoon sergeant sees me and sees that I'm limping around and he's like, "What happened?" Tell him. He was like, "You have to go to the hospital and get it checked out," which there isn't really much you can do with a broken tailbone. So they gave me a donut and a profile. A donut meaning that it's a inflatable air mattress.
Seat.
Yeah. Seat. It's an inflatable toilet seat, basically, that you get to carry around.
Right.
And, the Army gave me Motrin, obviously.
Wait, we were just talking to somebody else about that. He's like, "Hey, if you ever have an injury in the Army, you're getting a Motrin 800.
You're getting a Motrin. That's the, whether you name it, skin rash, that's the same thing you're going to get, standard issue. So I got, obviously, my Ranger slot, it went up, but I still was going to heal up in time for deployment. So, but I had to, it really couldn't do much other than like staff duty and a couple other things. So that's really where I saw my wife the second time, and I was setting at staff duty, but I was on my donut. And she was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So it was a good icebreaker. And that we really kind of like connected on that instance of like laughing. And then obviously, cause it's pretty funny. But that was kind of how we ended. I had left, I think, a month prior to her. and we didn't quite know where we were going. So at that time, we were like, hey, here's my email. If whatever base you get, write me. Who knows?
Mhm.
Maybe we'll be in the same area. And she did. And we were in the same forward operating base, and we linked up, and we basically, she did not have a fiance. So that was,
Her cover.
cover.
Yeah.
And
smart.
that wrote it, and we fell in love and eloped during our 2-week R&R in the middle of our deployment. We both went to Australia, and we got married on the beach, and by an Australian naval captain.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I should say that my battalion commander, before we left, we had to tell our command something like, hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And he thought that he introduced us. So when we were played along with it, we were like, yeah, and he thought it was
You're like,
great.
"All 'cause of
yeah,
you."
because
Yeah.
of you, sir. And he was like, this is, the best thing. And we were like, yeah. And he was like, whatever, when you get back, we'll figure it out. You guys will, we'll get the, as far as the administrative paperwork done and stuff, and we'll support you. And this is amazing. But we didn't know is that he had all my guys round up our stuff from different living quarters. She was obviously in different living quarters than me. And they found us, where all the civilians stayed at the base, and a quarter of a trailer by the flight line.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that was where we got back. They had our own, they got us a bed, and they moved us all our stuff in, and that's what was our little honeymoon suite for the first 6
Just
months
hearing
of our marriage.
in the back.
Constant,
Yeah.
constant day and night of the helicopters coming up and down, and that everything's shaking, and and I remember our first night, I was or back from our honeymoon, and I was like, it's, I promise you, it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah. That's a
this
promise
is-
you
yeah.
can hold to.
We're
Yeah.
living in half a trailer in Baghdad. I promise. We can only get better. And that's kind of, it did. And it, we experienced our first couple months together in deployment, which was unique in itself. But we really were, able to foster a relationship outside of the norms.
Mhm.
And as far as back in the States, how the normal process would work, it didn't, it was kind of like that isolated, but at the same time, it really we were, it was a good connection, and we had that, common, understanding of each other, and being
Yeah.
that. And then, and then all the experiences of your first deployment, and then coming back, and then also being married and not,
Yeah.
we didn't have anything.
I was gonna say,
then-
and being worried about your spouse.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's beyond
that
just your
was-
own health and well being. Now you have
yeah,
to be careful.
experiencing that. Her role she didn't go out as much, but my role did. I was out day and night. So, she definitely, it was hard, a different way of, this is really life and death. And,
Mhm.
it made things, I guess, more real, and emotions a little stronger.
Yeah.
I would put that.
Mhm.
And then we got back, and, everything was I just remember everything was a blur as far as okay, we get back, try to be normal, buying a house, and then figuring out, re-enlistments and changing jobs and career paths, and then getting orders again, and then moving and PCSing and enjoying all the, the things that families in the military have to deal with, and just
Mhm.
doing it with as a dual active duty spouse.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, and like I told you, my parents are both Army veterans, and my mom got out. My parents got divorced when I was 3, and my mom stayed in. My dad got out and became a cop. But even just listening to them for those first few years, we were in Germany. They had 2 kids under 2. They're both full-time MPs, and my dad was like, for all the good parts about the Army and the military, they don't always do the best job with married people and keeping families together. And my mom would get orders, like she got orders first to go to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and my dad's in Germany. And I'm like, what? Like, why would you think?
Yeah.
But it was just like, there was always this process to it and like all this paperwork and trying to like make it work where they could line up their careers at the same time while they're both active. And it's just a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, they made that very clear. They made it to us that, you're not guaranteed to be at the same base, let alone the same country. And that's part of the deal. We had different careers, and we were lucky enough to, I re-enlisted and I got Europe in my contract, which is like big.
Yeah.
And we both got orders to Italy, and we were like, and at that time I was like, boy, I might stay in for life. This is awesome. They got this. I'm going to go from Bragg to Italy. We're going to tour Europe as a young couple. And 2 weeks after that, I got orders to Fort Hood, Texas. And I was like, this is a mistake. It didn't make sense because in the Army at that time, you had to call your branch if you have the branch manager. I don't really even remember what that meant. And they were like, yeah, that's where you're going. And, I was always told, like, if you get it in your re-enlistment contract, they have to abide by that. And so I went to my leadership, my battalion sergeant major, and he was like, yeah, that's, we can change, you will get that fixed. And he called and branch said, no, it's needs of the Army. At that time, they were restructuring. The Army was doing another big restructuring, and they were standing up a light infantry brigade at Fort Hood, which is weird because we were the only one there. And like, I don't think there's ever been or was. And so that's where the Army was like, everybody that's priority. So that's where my wife and I actually were both lucky enough to go to Fort Hood in the same brigade, but it wasn't Italy. So,
yeah.
And I was like, well,
no knock on Fort Hood, but geez, I was sold on the Italian travels.
Exactly. And we were like, well, won't get me again. Like, that's learn my lesson about re-enlisting. So no, but we, when you PCS, it's Fort Hood. People love it or hate it. Clean. I remember that area. At that time, we made the best of it. And we actually had a lot of good friends there that were in the same unit and with us. So it was fun. And we actually made a lot of good memories there. And Austin, Texas, Austin 20 years ago. I don't know what it is now, but it was still, you do.
Yeah. I don't think it is what it was 20 years ago. That's all the people that lived there 20 years ago. They're like, oh, it's not the same.
Yeah. I loved it. I'm sure it's still fun.
It's still, keep Austin weird is still a vibe, but we definitely have a lot of tech and a lot of California, no offense to Californians, but we have a lot of tech now. So it's different.
It's probably, But, so that was that experience there. And then we shortly got orders to Afghanistan. And so that process of, the Army cycle of, glad you just got here, but keep your bags packed.
Yeah.
Like you're getting ready to go again.
And you deployed with Kelly.
We did. We were in, during that time, she was at a brigade level and I was at one of the infantry battalions. I had reclassed the military intelligence. We both did. The Army, that unit that I was infantry prior, I was now infantry plus intelligence. So it worked out well. I'm glad that was, where I was from, where I should be. I could walk the walk, talk the talk. So it helped out as far as our mission, and that understanding, although like learning a different skill set prior to and then leading a section was a big challenge as far as that. If I remember correctly, how that happened is, although I learned a new task in the military, it's reclassed from infantry to intelligence. They put me in. I was one of the NCOs in that section, and a couple of weeks, I was still learning the job because it was new careers, whole new branch, and a lot of different things to learn. Going through different Army training, but the actual NCOIC ended up breaking his back a couple of weeks in training. So I was it.
Yeah.
So there was nobody else. I was now in charge of it.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, trial by fire. That's exactly what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was one of those, again, those real, oh shit, I'm it.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. So, and I'd had those prior to, but this was a whole much more responsibility and, things that I needed to be an expert on that did not feel like I was.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You learn what you can use, what makes sense, and you make it work, and you try to get the most assets and people and learning from them. And just, we made it work. I had some really good, guys that worked with me, other guys that I met in the process. And then, my OIC, how the military does it at that time, the intel section was NCOIC and the OIC. So it's a captain. And, I was still a junior non-commissioned officer, but still the NCO. So he was actually a brilliant guy. One of those lifelong friends. But yeah, so that was kind of like our cycle up of, now you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Again, our mission changed prior to, at that time.
Come on.
We were going to RC East, I think, at the time, with the rest of the whole brigade combat team. Down in Kandahar, there was a big, at that time, there wasn't really a big U.S. presence in RC South, the Kandahar region, mainly like the Brits and the Canadians. I can't remember, there was like a big prison break, Taliban. So the Canadians were like, we need U.S. support down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the Army outconned us, my infantry battalion, to the Canadians. And that hadn't happened since like World War II. It was a really weird thing.
Yeah.
It kind of one of those things where everything you trained to go in this area, and then it shifts and you're going to a completely different area and whole new lines of support and all those things, and trying to figure it out in a big real way.
High risk.
High risk.
High stakes.
And yeah, so that was that deployment, much different from my first deployment. And then that whole time, that area from 2008 to 2009, yeah, that was another thing that I hadn't experienced, of that unique position what Kelly and I were in, where, you're deployed, but so is your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't together that time. And there was no constant communication. We were both very involved in what we were doing in the mission, and you didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
And that was, you didn't know what was going to happen to you, but you also didn't know what was going to happen to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, very unique stress.
Yeah, it would
for
be
a long extended time. And, it's one of those things where you get through it, but, you don't realize what it's doing until you don't realize, after looking at it in hindsight.
Yeah.
You get through it, but you don't know like what it really means until after.
Yeah, you're just putting it all in your rucksack, as they like to say, right? You had all those rocks stacking up. But how long did that Afghanistan deployment last?
A year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much of your contract did you have left when you came back?
I had about, like 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. She had less than me. She got involuntary extended to go for that one. One of those things where it's like a stop loss. I think that was the term they used to throw around.
Mm-hmm.
So she actually got back, from that deployment, and gosh, she transitioned within less than 60 days, which was way too fast thinking back. So the normal process of coming back to deployment takes time,
Mm-hmm.
let alone getting done.
Released.
Like, here you go.
Yeah.
Good luck in life. And a lot of our friends were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you don't realize, looking at hindsight, of what that meant at that time,
Mm-hmm.
But I still had a couple months left. So she was able to kind of get out and then kind of figure out what we had made that decision prior that we were both getting out. One, that deployment for both of us was particularly rough. And we had both made an agreement when we had gotten married that if we wanted to have kids, we knew that, and we wanted to have a family, but we both knew that we didn't want to have kids while we were in the military. And the reason being, and I'm not cutting on anybody who does have kids, you're obviously you're a product of that, but we had watched a lot of our friends watch their kids grow up in the photographs, and it was a different struggle for them. And I can't imagine what that was.
Yeah, you guys didn't want that same thing for yourselves.
No. And we knew that if one of us stayed in, that wouldn't be fair as well. That would be, one of those impossible things on both parties, and third, the kids as well. And I had actually gotten orders to a really good assignment prior to leaving to go back to Fort Bragg that I had to sign, declination of orders, and I was honored to get something like that. It was, a once in a lifetime thing, but I knew I didn't have what I needed to be at that part, to perform and be at that level. And I wasn't in the headspace. I wasn't in my mind, body, nothing. So we both decided the ETS, and that's kind of what brought us back to this area, knowing that, I had really good family support. That's one thing that's carried me through so many endeavors in my life is my family support, not just my siblings. I love them to death, and and my parents and all my supportive aunts and uncles. It's a very large, loving family, and I'm very unique, and I cherish that. And I knew I needed that. And we both did. And so we were immediately accepted. We ended up starting new careers. Mine was, I went into counterterrorism for law enforcement, and it was a completely different world, but it fit because it was that high demand, high up tempo, and I didn't have to leave. I didn't have to go over, you know what I mean?
It wasn't too different.
But I didn't have to be away as much. Like, I didn't have to be overseas and stuff. And it was something that I was lucky in time and place, like a lot of people. But at the same time, it was a way to escape and kind of prolong the inevitable.
Yeah. I relate to or feel the emotion of your story just because, like I told you, as the product of two veterans who were making like a similar decision. I mean, my mom just didn't want to be done with the Army, and so she wasn't. And I think how differently my life would have looked if she hadn't made that same decision that you and Kelly did, which was just like, yes, there are parts about this we like and there's parts that we don't like. But once we have kids, like, we know, the avoidance goal of like, I know what I don't want, and I don't want to have them grow up in this environment. And I just respect and admire you both for being able to make that decision, because it does become part of your identity, and it's a huge chunk of your life.
I still miss it,
right?
Not all of it, but
yeah.
There is something that, it was hard to leave. We were at that stage where we were exhausted, but I did love it. We both did. And, we had great friends then, and we knew, that the possibilities are endless. The mission, you know what I mean? It was a rough time to leave, but at the same time, it was the right thing.
Yeah, it definitely was. And that's something I had written down that you'd said to me before, was once you came back, you have this transition, you're into like a high activity role, a role that, you need still the utmost performance. But you had said you were functioning, but you were a mess. Yeah. And like, I think you probably had like a pretty good exterior. People that didn't know you that well wouldn't maybe have noticed anything was amiss, but you knew like, like something's stacking here.
And I didn't let people know me that well. Not that, that didn't, obviously, but that part, because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
At that time, it was still kind of undefined. I didn't know what I was experiencing because I didn't think I had it as bad as everybody, of friends and people I know that did have it bad, and because I was functioning. And I was able to handle tasks and do things and still, be hitting the life stages, those, starting a young family, doing family stuff. But yeah, the turmoil was there. And that, negative spiral and the dwelling, and that despair, all of those things just consumed. And then I realized like, okay, I don't know how to get out of this. I didn't quite know what it meant, but other than like, well, what does that mean? I can't stop what I'm doing, cause I need to provide, but at the same time, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I need to get help as well. And that was scary in itself because it's that I didn't want to, I thought vulnerability was weakness. And
That's fair.
Again, you look back and it's like, why would you ever think that? It's a strength. And there was a lot of, I thought that if I had stepped out, that I wouldn't be allowed to come back. That.
Yeah. Like the stigma.
Yeah. Like, young infantrymen, you get hurt or something like that. Like, gosh, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to lose my spot on the line, then.
Well, you broke your tailbone
right.
deployed. So, yeah.
But thinking like, I don't want to lose my spot. Like this is like, you want to go and do what your goals and you're designed to do. And so it was hard to do that, knowing that I had to figure out how am I going to do this. And it was not working. I was not figuring it out. The VA, I had gone to them. I didn't really even know what to expect. It was hard to get into at that time. I know they've changed. They made a lot of progress in that. I will definitely give benefit to the VA. But at that time it was not, hours on hold, you name it, not knowing what to do, then finally get in front of a doctor only to be given pills that you don't really even understand. And
not Motrin again.
No, not Motrin. Well, yeah, no, they did. The Motrin too, because you were hurt. So that's the standard thing. Like, but yeah, and you get on that and you're like, well, this is, is this it? Yeah, is this really what this is what my life is now? Like, and then I think, the wheels started really falling off. I had to make a change and figure it out because I was losing it regardless. So I can't remember what news media. I saw an article, one of those times where I couldn't sleep at night, which is often, and I read about a person's experience. They had written about going to Boulder, Crest, and here in Virginia in Bluemont. And I remember reading it and I was like, it's a veteran nonprofit. All right, what is that? That was another thing. Like, is it the VA? What does that mean? But what his story resonated with me is because he was able to say like his struggles and then that he got training. And it wasn't like therapy, but it was like training. And it was, you go into a rural area and it's, you were really allowed, but it's also training by other combat veterans, designed by them. And it stood out to me because one, I related to him, what he was describing, but also that was something that I could understand.
Yeah.
That like, okay, I didn't know what therapy meant. And I had gone to therapists and I didn't really even know, like, what is this? Like, I don't like, this isn't helping. I'm just only dwelling more, it's not, I didn't, even know what it was at that time. So that made sense to me. And I remember seeing the website, the link to it, and I filled it out right there. And then I ended up getting a call that morning from Dusty.
Dusty? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
And a pivotal moment in my life. God bless Dusty. And, and his true fashion, he, was able to speak right into me, even on the phone in our initial conversation. Like, I went over your application. You're pretty fucked up. I got I want you in the next class.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
Yeah, like he saw you. Yeah. And like you had said before, just like that commonality of somebody who could empathize and understand your experiences and knew things even you didn't have to say.
It was that one of those, I don't know if you've had the benefit of meeting Dusty, but and he wasn't the only one. It was, I had Coach here, I had Josh was my guide as well. A couple other guides that were incredible. But Dusty has that way of just speaking into you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those, strong leadership that resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I needed. And, in true Dusty fashion, like told me, you need to unfuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I was able to do that here. At least start it here.
Mm-hmm.
Still work in progress.
Well, he had a beautiful way with words. It's poetic.
Yeah. But yeah, that was profound to say the least. I remember coming here, I did the drive here, the fear, but also knowing that I didn't really have any other option.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the only reason I came here was knowing that it wasn't good. Mm-hmm. If this was it, then this was it. Mm-hmm. And I went in with that intention. And yeah, I came in and I put it simply, they saved me from myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just really felt like it resonated with you and was what you needed.
It did. And it was, the process, like it's all by design. Mm-hmm. And not knowing was also part of it, because you have really no idea when you show up.
Yeah.
And you're with strangers and, they're accepting, and also you're with other students. You don't, you're there and you're learning vulnerability. Yeah. And that's the only way it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Is you're going to have to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But the guides, they were emulating that. Like they were learning from them, and then they were each very different, but also like incredibly, they worked very well together, but it was all, they led by example. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, I want to, like, that resonates with me. Mm-hmm. Like they're vulnerable, they're open, and they're showing me how. Mm-hmm. And you go through each day, and each day is different, but not long enough. Mm-hmm. Like you're the first two, but then you're realizing like, oh, we're coming at the only a couple more days left. It's such a, you're releasing, and it's such a, good feeling at the same time, but like, you're also appreciate the isolation that you're allowed. It's giving you the space to do it. Yes. And Reagan, you're able to be, when I think back on it, I was able to become present. Mm-hmm. And really appreciating moments like that. And then coming to that realization, being like, oh my God, I don't want this to stop. Like I want to keep this momentum, like, because I'm afraid when I leave here, the world comes back. Right. The like, reality hits. Yeah. Am I going to be able to continue that? And then getting the support after, and then learning it's all by design as well. But it's just knowing that you have not just the guys you went through with, and the guides as well, but also the whole community,
Mhm.
and that it's constantly growing over the years. And I think that's truly been a benefit to me coming back periodically, not as much as I would like to, and hopefully I can
Mhm.
more in the future now that my kids are a little older, more self-sustaining,
Uh-huh.
is that you meet the people that are part of this organization.
Mhm.
And it's, they're all here with the same intention.
Yeah.
And whether they're combat veterans themselves or first responders or, military brats and,
Mhm.
everybody's connected in that way, but the same common purpose.
Yes.
And we're all vulnerable,
Mhm.
been open. And that's a rare thing today. And we, with that common connection. And I think that that's extremely appealing. But it also, I know that we all carry that in the real world individually as well.
Yeah.
And that's what, getting to what things I've learned and carry on, and what I try to emulate and lead by example in that sense is that, being vulnerable in that sense. And, I said like before, I was afraid to be that in my profession and my prior professions and stuff,
Mhm.
but realizing it now and doing it, it's a strength. People are drawn to it because it's a value that all of us have. And
Yeah.
it's a needed thing.
Mhm.
The only way you're going to learn and take things is to is also to open up as well
Yeah.
and let those, intuition and everything come together.
Mhm. I know. I really admire that about you, and it's not always easy.
No.
And, I know you felt apprehension when you first came to Warrior Path, and that I sort of forced you to do this podcast with me too. No, but that it's scary to tell your story, to show that vulnerability sometimes. Like, that's still a human emotion to be like, wow, I don't know, I hope this goes well. I hope I'm able to do it. But knowing that the outcome is that maybe there's somebody else who hears your story and is impacted by it, and who feels like, wait, maybe I should share. Maybe I should let this lid off a little bit.
Yeah. I do hope it reaches others. And anybody, I, I tell people like veterans aren't the one, we don't own PTSD. We don't own struggle, but if somebody's got to show you how it's done, then let us do it.
Yeah.
But don't, and that goes for anybody. Like it's okay to struggle. But it's not okay to do it alone.
Mhm.
Because you need help, and we need that human connection.
Yeah.
And, and oftentimes I'm struggle with it still is like you get wrapped up into your own world and your own, habits. And you think
Mhm.
that, well, I've got this. I've
Mhm.
gotten it before. I can do this. And, accepting that like, I don't really got this
Mhm.
and I do need to get help, or I need to start that process of whether it's contacting somebody or an organization, is to, that has to, you need to keep doing because there's so much more to learn about yourself. Like it doesn't stop. Like that struggle, I explained it when I was a short time, I was a path guide during COVID. It was a weird time, but it was also like a very rewarding and hard job.
Yeah.
One of the most profound things I've experienced. And I wasn't very good at it. I would, be the first, like, and I say that because I realized that there were qualities that I still needed to work on that
Mhm.
I didn't think that I was, um, that I knew that I could do, but I wasn't being honest with myself.
Mhm.
Not only that, you know, relating with the struggles of others and seeing the beauty of watching them go through that transition and, the lifelong changes that they experience. It kind of like was a really good gut check that I would not have gotten anywhere else.
Mhm.
And it put me on a different trajectory as far as like how to better myself and how to lead by example, and then how to emulate with that with my kids.
Yeah.
And that it really became important because I was, you learn, you break that cycle of the during the initial stages when you're learning about, early trauma or however, you're not continuing, you're breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
But I also know that I also can start new things that emulate and then create a new cycle for them. And that, why wouldn't I take advantage of, that time of my young kids and letting them see me be vulnerable as well, and be open, but also doing the practices that I know that worked, that I was taught here, the meditation, the daily habits and goals, and being intentful and present.
Yeah.
And, showing the value of just a conversation as simple as put the phone down and really listen.
Yeah.
And let's do that daily, and, my kids, it's funny because I have a picture of them that they're meditating, and this is when they're pretty young, because they've been watching me meditate. And I was like, I was really proud of that. And they, that they learn that and they know that I need to do that. And I tell them and I work out, daily. I do something, whether it's, even just simple 20 minutes or something, because I tell them I need to do this for my mental health as well as physical. It's important, but it's all connected. You can't, and so is habit and routine. Those are things that, and learning, those are things that you can control. And you don't really get to control much in life, especially other people. That's the first thing you need to learn, but you can control your responses to what and how you respond to different things and what you give power to. And then having that, helping them and help watching them struggle with their own, but also when they achieve it. And it's really something. I think that I've learned a lot, as far as being a father in that sense, that I never could have learned about, myself alone, and this, understanding how we all work. And it's pretty incredible. It's challenging as well.
Yeah.
But it's also very rewarding.
Well, I'm confident your kids are learning a lot from your example. And yes, the meditation pick, definitely a good representation of that. But I'm sure it's even in the small ways that might not even be outwardly visible. And as you said, sort of breaking the cycle or showing them healthy ways of moving through life with struggle, because it's something we're all going to deal with. It's going to keep happening. But how can you do it in a way that, feels true to you, that helps you move authentically through the world? And I was thinking about Warrior Path, and I think one of the last things I wanted to ask you about particularly was post-traumatic growth, which you've experienced, you're continuing to practice. And as Dr. Tedeschi taught me, there's no end to that. So I was like, wait, is there a finish line of it? And it's you've done it. You've post-traumatic growth, and now you're done. He said, no, that's not how it works. But there's a blessing in that, an opportunity in that to continue to learn. But we talk a lot about the 5 domains and how those can show up in your life. And I'm curious for you, through all the stages that you've been in and all the kind of hurdles that you've overcome, if there's one of those domains that particularly resonates with you right now. And I'm sure there's points where you've leaned on one more than another, or called on one more than another.
And daily.
Yes, and daily.
What is the
It's new
possibilities? That one. And that's really what it relates to me, because it's staying curious and knowing I have techniques that work that I've learned here and other places, but I know that I need to continue learning, because I need to try different things. But also new possibilities, meaning what Coach would say, you got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what I did here. Like you said, I really wanted to respectfully decline. But other life events that happened, that I feel that I needed to do this in whatever way I could, to reach, hopefully relate, or anything. Hopefully I'm speaking some sense and my story resonates somehow to somebody that, you're going to be all right, but you got to get there. And it's going to be hard, but it's also incredible. You have so much to offer. And new possibilities is what I think resonates with me daily. And as far as my goals is to keep trying, keep seeking and keep going.
Yeah. It's a good one. And I just thank you so much for leaning in with me. And like you said, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I won't continue to do this to you, but I appreciate you and your heart and just the reason that you wanted to come today, even though you're like, yeah, I have some apprehension about this, but I'm hoping it'll reach somebody who's maybe feeling similarly. And I have no doubt that it will. And I just appreciate you walking us through your military career and what you've taken from it, what you've contributed here at Boulder Crest. And I hope now that your kids are getting a little older, a little more independent, that you'll come back and continue to be part of it here, because your presence is needed and your heart is needed here. And I just really thank you for sitting down with me and being here.
Thank you. And it's been an honor. I really appreciate it. Thank you.